Hey everybody, welcome to MCM TV2. This is the extra channel where all the extra mad stuff goes that doesn't fit onto the main channel. You may have seen by now the epic Honda Civic build that we did on a budget. What is a budget today? We're going to be talking about that in a bit of detail, but a lot of you are saying like, how cheap was it? So today we're going to go through, we're going to talk about cheapness. Cheapness, it is a relative kind of term based on, you know, your circumstances, but we're going to go through, talk about what some of the stuff cost and possibly some alternatives as well.
So I know a lot of you really enjoyed this series. It was great bringing it together in one long, like 50-minute thing. It took months. I think we started that project in October last year and it was sort of on the back burner while doing Lavorg and Midget and a whole bunch of other things.
Shooting in Japan, Turbos and Temples 3, we shot in its entirety, edited, did all the music for it while this was happening at the same time. So I know a lot of people loved it, but it's not sustainable for us to do only 2 builds a year.
There'd be 2 videos a year, but it was a lot of fun to do, and we also just wanted to put it all into one to show the whole process, and also because I think I do love this kind of thing. It's similar to what we do with the MX-5 back in the day. Turbocharging a cheap nugget car like this, they are reliable, they're good dailies, and when you add a turbo, they just get better.
Yeah.
They just get better, and we were trying to do this as cheap as we could. Now, the idea was not to do it as cheap as possible, the cheap, because I fully appreciate some people are able to, you know, by recycling parts from this car or other parts and welding things together, can do it even.
Get turbos off tractors, use a stick welder, and just make it in their shed. I understand you can do that for basically next to nothing.
And I love that, and I love it when people do that, and I think that's so awesome. Management, we have learned through many cars, hundreds of cars, that getting the engine management right, and yes, Haltech are a sponsor, so they do help us out, but getting the engine management right really just brings a lot extra to the car and makes it better to daily and better to enjoy and better to race and better to upgrade and fighting. I've done my time fighting against factory ECUs that don't want to cooperate, unwrapping bananas, essentially.
Yeah. So obviously this here was kind of built around a kit that came in from China, so that basically had most of the things that you would need to actually convert your car. There's other things on there as well. These bolt-on kits are never exactly bolt-on anyway, so there was lots of other things that were required. By now I gather you've seen the video. If not, click up there so you can actually have a look at it. How much was the turbo? Do you like the turbo itself?
The turbo itself is very similar to what we put on Yaris Hilton in terms of the quality of it, just a no-name turbo. A couple of $100. The kit itself was, I feel like it was $899 US or just over $1,000 Aussie.
Yeah, I think
not including postage, which was $50, $100. And I had high hopes for it because I was purposely looking for one that had intercooler pipes. I didn't want to make them from scratch. Yeah. More for me, we ended up modifying them, most of them anyway. So lesson learned, if you're doing it at home, maybe get one with a kit. If you've got a welder, but then you need a welder, and this is where we get into the cost argument.
Yeah, that's right, because it's one of those things of like, well, what does it cost if you've got the equipment? What does it cost versus if you don't have the equipment? But what we wanted to do was try and look at the relative cost compared to a normal build that we do now. What's the alternative for kind of a turbocharged car that you could get? A turbocharged 86 or a BRZ is going to cost you $20,000. A 180SX is probably going to be $30,000, $35,000. And I was actually at a drift event last night and they were saying like no one's actually out there in these JDM cars anymore because they're too expensive to have fun with. So people are using Falcons and stuff like that. So this car itself, I mean, it's under $10,000 for the car and all of the parts modified on the road easily. Yep. Let's put that into some perspective. A set of tyres for a Bugatti, $42,000 US. Change the fluids on your Bugatti, $25,000. I mean, to do a fluid change and tyres, that's US dollars, is going to be over $100,000. That's what I mean about the relativity, about what you've got to spend versus what you've got to do. But something like this, certainly in Australia on a minimum wage, you could afford to buy the car and do the mods and work on it with your mates.
A thermostat for an RS4, which is like a 10-year-old, B8 RS4 10-year-old thing, was like $600. So that's, there's 2 turbos right there. But I've just got a little list, not with all the prices of everything, but just a list of what's actually in this. So we've got a turbo kit, 4 injectors, 4 rail adapters, about 2 meters of rubber hose, about 8 fittings, like the ones that go on here, the banjo fittings. It's got the Haltech 750, a wideband, an oil pressure sensor, which I consider like the minimum for safeties, and with a programmable aftermarket ECU, you can set that up, which is harder to do on a factory one. A plug and pin kit to use the original loom. There's a handful of other wires in there. An air temp sensor, which is essential because it uses that to calculate volumetric efficiency. An external wastegate. Now, we did replace this. It came with one. We just didn't trust it and we didn't want to blow up our engine just over something like that, especially with GFB, who are friends and sponsors, so helped us out. A boost control solenoid, we've got a bit of heat wrap on there. A flex sensor, optional if you want to run ethanol. We didn't need to, but we wanted to. A fuel pressure regulator, you can do that in cheaper ways by hacking factory stuff as well, but we chose to use that one because it's simple. We put a clutch and flywheel in it. You also don't have to do that if you might already have a brand new clutch that's good or a heavier one. Same with the exhaust. Now, the exhaust is a really nice made thing. At the time, we couldn't get anything aftermarket. You could hack up an older car or a bigger car exhaust to make that work. But this is something we want to do on the car anyway, and whether it's NA or not, that's something you would do. Then a set of spark plugs, an air filter, And dyno time.
So there it is.
So dyno, we were only on the dyno for, I reckon, an hour. It was not long at all because we'd done the road
most of the tuning was done on the road tune by Isaac, so that is one way of getting most of that done as well. So look, it was done on a budget relative to people who are doing builds these days, where everything on the internet has to be 1,000 horsepower, and has to be these parts from Japan, these ones from America, these expensive things. It can be done cheaply. The car is reliable now, it's fast and it's good. If there's other options that you're interested in, we made a whole video which was like the best cheap cars that you can get. Basically, we went through and managed to almost agree on what the top 5 cars are that we think that you can still get for cheap that offer you a lot of modability and practicality and good use day to day, but then also on the track as well. So check out that video. There's a link up there or below.
There's a couple of things.
There it is.
It's worth saying there's a few things we didn't touch. We didn't touch the cooling system, didn't need to. It's happy, we're not pushing giant power that's going to wreck it. We didn't touch the aircon. This particular turbo kit works with the aircon. On a lot of Civics, you go this way. If you don't have power steering and don't have aircon, you can put the turbo up and out here and then have your air filter. It doesn't work on this particular one, for example. The rest of the car just works as it always did. The steering's great. It still handles really well. Since it's going to get a few other small upgrades to sort of bring it in parity with our yellow Civic, so the CRV brake upgrade as well. It's getting a few other things behind the scenes that we won't double up and do again. But if the question you're asking is, are we going to see some kind of battle between various Civics, then
nope.
Well,
I mean, all we really want to see is a couple of Civics on the track, and then my B16 VTEC powered Mini smashing all of them.
Well,
I mean, that's what everyone wants to see.
But
and do you know how we can prove it? Look at all the comments that say B16 Mini right now. Yeah. Look at all the comments. You know you want to see a Mini go thrash these Civics.
Well, we'll see. Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed this series. We really enjoyed putting it together. It was a fun thing to hang out and do. And yeah, still going strong.
And we are here in Super Garage, and Super Garage has its own line of merch, such as what Marty's wearing now. Super Garage on the front, Super Garage on the back. You can get these in a bunch of different colours.
Really nice quality shirts too.
And support the show and support the space. There it is. We'll see you further on this channel for some Unicorn Circuit, or over on the main channel for the nuggets that are about to be feasting your eyeballs on. See you soon.